So I was out riding the WR today and thought, hey, I probably should do a review on this. Heaps of people ask, you know, what it's like, what I've done to it. So let's do one. Quality iPhone video, probably terrible sound, but I'll still give it a go. So the WR, awesome dual sport. Enduro bike, heavy, slow. But adventure bike, awesome. Dual sport, awesome. The engine in these things are low maintenance. Oil changes, 5,000 Ks, normal service 10, 40,000 for a valve check. Now I've done a couple of valve checks, never actually had to adjust one. And that's, you know, I've done one with 50, 60,000 Ks. Perfect, in spec. Just goes to show how good that engine is, along with good maintenance. Not a lot of power there though. You're looking at 30 horsepower by the time it's been tuned. But if you like to rev it, it's perfect. It'll still do 130, 135 tops, which is more than enough to get you into trouble. But if you want to smash through this sort of stuff like a single track here, like I've been doing, try punching something that's got 80 horsepower like an Africa Twin or a Super Tenere through that shit. Good luck. So, the suspension. Standard, it's alright. The front's pretty compliant really. The rear though, the rear is the big one standard. You get it hot, turns into a pogo stick. You get a few Ks on it, turns into a pogo stick. So what I've done, and pretty much what every WR owner in Australia should, is get the suspension done by Technic. Now Technic do an upgrade for them. They revalve and change the spring in the back. They do the front as well. And the suspension becomes like, it is pretty close to an F. An older F, but still close to an F. The suspension is good after Technic do it. If you're only doing general trail riding, you know, small fire trails, nothing too insane, you'll get away with the standard suspension. But the biggest improvement on this bike is definitely the suspension. Now, I've done a few things that you don't really need to, like the rims. I've done the rims because I destroyed the standard ones. I've destroyed a few rims. So I've got XLA 60s, pretty much indestructible when you're doing adventure riding and stuff like that. The standard rims are alright if you're doing normal stuff, but I put a big dent in front one, cracked the back one, basically no good for how I'm riding it. The pipe's a bit of noise, a little bit more power I suppose, but mostly the noise and less heat. That standard exhaust has the catalytic converter in it, and it gets hot. Like, you ride along slow and you can feel the heat baking your ass as you ride. So the main reason I did the GY2R was of course the noise, but the heat. The heat is the big one. And everything runs cool. The engine runs cooler because the exhaust is running cooler. It's amazing how much cooler everything runs just from the pipe. I haven't put a power command or anything on. You don't need to. People will say, oh, you'll blow it up, you'll do this, you'll do that. It'll run like a piece of crap without it. Bolt the slip-on on and ride it. You don't need to put a power commander on. Sure, if you want, you can. Bit more power, bit more usable, but you don't have to. Tell the others to go get nicked if they tell you you're going to blow it up. They're wrong. The gearing, I changed my gearing because the standard gearing is just way too low. It runs 1343 standard, which is just, even for the highway, it's too high. It's just terrible. You can't use 6, half the time you can't use 5th, you're going back to 4th to go up hills. It's just terrible. So I changed to 48 in the rear, 14 in the front. If I was going to do it again, I'd probably go 49 in the rear, or even a 50, because I do more of this off-road stuff than anything else. But, you know, that's up to you how you're riding it. But at a minimum, put a 45 on the back instead of the 43, because it totally changes the bike. All of a sudden, you're not looking for extra power because it's actually usable. The brakes on it, the rear, you know, rear brake, it stops, it skids, Doesn't boil it unless if you're actually trying to boil it, or if you're not using it correctly. The rear is good. The front, standard, really, really good. The only reason I went the oversize is I put the extra bigger tank on it and plan to put some luggage on it. And once you start doing that, it starts to weigh a bit, so it takes a bit more brake to pull up. So I've got the oversized rotor. It's a genuine braking rotor off a WRF model. It's a 270mm with the GYTR bracket off a WRF as well, off an early model. The later model will not fit, but the early model will. I did have a windscreen, destroyed it on the last Ride ADV ride, just cartwheeled the bike. My fault, you know, can't complain about that. The windscreen's still half stayed, the rest of it's up blue rag somewhere, but we don't talk about that. Upgrade the handlebars, the Pro tapers to some fat bars with some different risers, mostly because the standard bars, they're that close to licorice sticks. If you left them in the sun, I reckon they would just bend by themselves. They are horrible. Get you by for a while, I suppose, but as soon as you crash it, you're going to be after handlebars. A few comfort things. I got heated grips because, you know, I'm a pussy. The GPS on the front on my own little mount that I've made. Awesome for those rides. You can turn around and do adventure rides with GPS files. You know, you record your adventure rides. I use a Garmin Montana. You really can't get a better GPS for your money, really. Your tail tidy on the back, just because, you know, some things have actually got to look good. I made my own little rack on the back with a toolkit attached to it, spare tube, all the tools in there that I could ever need. Hopefully I'll never need to use it. I haven't had to use any of it yet because, of course, it's a WR. They don't break down very often, and if they do, it's very, very uncommon. What else? I got Barkies and the nice fluoro cover. They've definitely done their job. The VPS, so they got this little wind deflector. You can move the wind deflector up and down, or take it off altogether. It's up to you. I leave it all the way up. It doesn't really affect the airflow that much, really. So I just leave it all the way up, and that way, when it's in the cooler months, it actually works a little bit better. Protection-wise, I've got a B&B radiator guard. It's saved me many, many times, even with the tank. The tank will still flex into the radiator if you do hit it hard enough. Don't ask me how I know. There's a nice dent in there before the radiator guard went on, even though it had the big tank. So don't think because you've got a big tank, you don't need a guard. It will flex if you crash hard enough, and I've tested that a couple of times. B&B bash plate. The GYTR one is also good. The good thing about the GYTR is it comes around your water pump a bit further, actually protects the side of your water pump a bit more. So it's probably a little bit better than the B&B, but the B&B was already on the bike when I got it, so can't complain about that. Bling bling nipples, just because, you know, bling bling. Big tank. Big tank, they're an 18 or a 19 litre. I can get over 400 Ks out of this tank. Standard, I could push it to 200. I had my girlfriend's WR, she had a stock standard one, standard gearing, everything. I got I think it was 240 Ks out of the standard tank. I do not know how. I think I was just scared of scratching it, so I just rode it really softly. But this tank, I can get 430 Ks, which is a lot. There's not very many places you need more than that. Not many at all. So it's a little bit wider than standard, as you can see. It's a little bit ugly, but fuck me, it does its job. It holds fuel. You get to go further than standard. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. Comfy seat. Seat concepts. Can't go wrong with seat concepts. Standard one's not too bad, but once you start doing bigger rides and you're pushing 600-700 Ks in a day, you need a comfy seat. WRF foot pegs with springs, because the standard foot pegs, they're no good. They are tiny and they bend. They're just terrible. I don't know why they put those stupid little pegs on there. I think I might get wet in a minute. Jesus. Not looking good. So I think that's about the mods I've done. So I've been in the motorcycle trade for over 10 years. And the reason I ride WR is I know if I go on a big ride, I can get home. If I go on a small ride, I can get home. If I drop it, I can pick it up. If I cartwheel the friggin' thing in some single track, I can pick it up. If I was to do that on even a 660 Tenere, drop it 2 or 3 times, you're rooted by the time you pick it up. If you find a big rocky shelf and you go, oh, I might see what this is like so I can try it on the Enduro bike next time, you wouldn't even look at it, you'd turn around. On the WR, you can do it. Now you compare these to something like a DRZ400 or DR650 even the new Honda 450L. I still ride a WR for a reason. I can get any of those bikes cheap. I work at a dealership that sells all of them. I still ride a WR. Reliability, the fun factor, you don't need 50 horsepower. Sure, it's nice, but you don't need it. Most of the time it just gets people into trouble. Like most people out there do not need 50 horsepower. Most people don't need freaking 30 horsepower. So, the WR, it's reliable. It's low maintenance. There is that many parts out there, you can do whatever you want. There's supermoto wheels. There's full adventure fairing kits for the friggin' things. You think of it, they make it for the WR. They make it for things like DRZs, but DRZ, a little bit more torque. The horsepower's not really, a little bit more. But there's a lot of people out there that have bought WRs after they've had DRZ 400s, and it's for a reason. The WR is just a better package overall. The Sierra 450L, 1000k for oil changes now, 30,000k for a rebuild. It's good for an adventure. It's good for an enduro bike, but it's horrible for an adventure bike or a dual sport. Who wants to rebuild and spend 3-4 grand on a rebuild on their adventure bike after 2 or 3 years? No one wants to do that. You might have 50 or 60 horsepower, but you're going to be out of pocket a lot, and you're going to be working on it a lot. With a WR, jump on it, ride it, done. Most of the people that buy these things don't even bloody wash them, and they just keep going. So the WR really, it's a better overall package. There's a lot of things that I've done to mine, a lot of things that other people do to theirs that you don't really need to. In reality, you want a dual sport, buy it, ride it, done. If you want an adventure bike, you buy it, you do the suspension, you put a tank on it, done. You want extra shit like I've got, you do it, but you don't have to. At the end of the day, you can have a really, really good adventure bike for 10 grand, which is better than pretty much everything else out there. So all the people that diss these little 250s because they got no horsepower, they're a little 250, where's the rest of the bike? You know what? You'll go everywhere a big adventure bike goes, you'll have a smile on your face, you'll have money in your pocket, and if you want to go and do single track, you can. You can tell the people on the Africas and the Super Teneres and the big KDMs, I'll meet you at the servo when you're filling up, and I'm going to go to the single track and meet you there, because you can. You want to do it on WR, you can. There's for an overall bike. Really, I don't think there's a better one at the moment, because you can ride on the road, you can ride on the dirt, whatever you want to do, you can do it. So I don't even know if you've watched half of this, you're probably tuned out, but I really like my WR. I had a WRF before this with a 450, big tank on it. Sure, it was good, but every time you rode it, you change the oil. You're doing maintenance all the time. Thing ate back tyres. This thing eats back tyres the way I ride it. But this is a better adventure and dual sport, 100%. If you're thinking about buying one, send me a message if you want. It's up to you. All my stuff, pretty much all my stuff, came from Chris Watson Motorcycles. Everything else, there's a few other bits and pieces, came from Ride ADV and Adventure Works, which is Greg. The Pirellis are pretty much the best tyres that I can put on this thing. I've tried a lot. Like in 10 years, I've tried a lot of tyres on this bike. Pirelli Extra X rear. And then the front, depends on where you're riding. I've got an Extra X on at the moment. I found the 30, I think it was a 32, the soft, was a better tyre. But depends on your terrain. But I found the Pirellis were the best tyre on this WR for sure. Tried the Dunlops, tried some of the others, tried the Motos. The Pirelli, overall for a WR250R, awesome tyre. You can make them last 1,000 Ks. You can make them last 5,000 Ks. All depends on how you ride it. So I think that's about it for my WR. If you have any questions, leave a message. If you want me to stop rambling, definitely let's send a message. Thank you.